The rain fell like a wall of water from the sky. Thunder rolled across the city, shaking the windows of every building. The streets were almost empty. Only a few streetlights stayed on, their weak yellow glow flickering in the storm. Daniel walked quickly along the sidewalk, his coat pulled tight around his body. His shoes were already soaked, and cold water filled his socks. He just wanted to reach his small apartment and forget this terrible day. He worked long hours at a repair shop, fixing old machines for people who never said thank you. His boss was always angry, and his pay was never enough. Life felt heavy. Like the dark clouds above his head, lightning flashed across the sky. For a second, the whole street turned bright white. Then darkness returned, deeper than before. Daniel sighed and kept walking. That was when he heard it. A soft sound. At first, he thought it was just the wind. The storm was loud, and strange noises were everywhere. But then he heard it again, a small cry. It sounded weak and sad. Daniel stopped walking. He looked around the empty street. Rain hit his face, and cold wind pushed against him. "Hello?" He called out. No answer. He took a few steps forward. The cry came again, this time from the dark alley beside an old building. Daniel hesitated. The alley was narrow and filled with shadows. Water rushed along the ground like a small river. "This is stupid," he muttered. "Probably just a cat." Still, the sound didn't feel like an animal. It felt human. He walked slowly into the alley. Another flash of lightning lit up the space, and that was when he saw her. At the far end of the alley, sitting against the wall, was a tiny figure. She was small, no bigger than a 6-year-old child. Her thin arms were wrapped around her knees, and her head was down. But something was wrong. Her skin gave off a soft blue glow. Daniel blinked. He thought the lightning had tricked his eyes. But when the darkness returned, the glow was still there. The little girl lifted her head. Her eyes were large and bright, shining like stars. They were not human eyes. They were too wide, too soft, and filled with fear. Daniel's heart began to race. What are you?" he whispered. The girl didn't answer. She just stared at him, her small body shaking from the cold rain. Daniel looked around. The street was empty. No cars, no people. Just the storm and the sound of thunder. He stepped closer. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The girl flinched at first, but she didn't run. She looked too weak to move. Her glow flickered like a dying light. Daniel removed his coat and slowly placed it around her shoulders. The blue light shone through the wet fabric. She looked down at the coat, then back at him. Her expression changed slightly. The fear in her eyes became something else. Something softer. Trust. Yell swallowed. None of this made sense. A glowing child? In the middle of a storm? It felt like a dream, but she was real. Her small fingers were ice cold when they touched his hand. Suddenly, the girl spoke. Her voice was soft, almost like the wind. "Please," she whispered. Daniel leaned closer so he could hear her. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Don't let them find me." A loud thunderclap exploded above them. At the same moment, a strange light flashed across the sky. It wasn't lightning. It was something else, something moving behind the clouds. Daniel looked up, his heart pounding. When he looked back down, the tiny alien girl was still holding his hand, like it was the only safe place left in the universe. Daniel didn't look at the sky again. The strange light behind the clouds made his heart beat faster, but the small hand in his own felt even more important. "Come on," he said softly. "You can't stay out here." The tiny alien girl didn't resist. She was too weak. Her glowing skin looked dimmer than before, like a fading light. Daniel gently lifted her into his arms. She was very light, almost like holding a bundle of feathers. He wrapped his coat tighter around her and stepped back into the rain. The storm didn't slow down. Thunder kept rolling across the sky. and the wind pushed against him with every step. His apartment was only a few blocks away, but it felt like a long journey. Every shadow looked strange. Every noise made him nervous. He kept thinking about her words. Don't let them find me. Who were they? When he finally reached his building, he quickly climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled old and damp. The lights flickered as the storm shook the power. Lines outside. He unlocked his door and stepped inside. The apartment was small and simple. A worn-out couch, a tiny kitchen, and a single bedroom. Nothing special. But it was warm and dry. That's better, he said, closing the door behind him. He placed the girl gently on the couch. She looked around the room with wide eyes. Everything seemed new to her. The table, the lamp, even the old clock on the wall. Daniel grabbed a towel and carefully dried her hair and face. Her skin was smooth and slightly warm, even though she had been in the cold rain. Are you hungry? He asked. She didn't answer. She just watched him. Daniel went to the kitchen and returned with a small bowl of soup and a glass of water. He placed them in front of her. Try this, he said. The girl looked at the bowl, confused. She slowly reached out and touched the spoon. Then she sniffed the soup. Her nose wrinkled. Daniel almost smiled. Yeah, it's not great, but it's all I've got. She didn't eat it. Instead, her eyes moved to the glass of water. She picked it up with both hands and took a small sip. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the soft blue glow around her body grew brighter. Daniel froze. Did that just happen? The girl looked down at her hands. The glow pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She seemed calmer now, less afraid. Water, she whispered. It helps. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay, good to know. He sat on the chair across from her, studying her face. She looked like a child, but there was something older in her eyes, something sad. What's your name? He asked. She stayed silent for a long time. The only sound in the room was the rain hitting the windows. Finally she spoke. Lyra, Daniel repeated. That's a nice name. She tilted her head slightly, as if the word nice was new to her. Suddenly, the television in the corner of the room turned on by itself. The screen flickered, showing static. Daniel frowned and grabbed the remote. I didn't turn that on, he muttered. The static cleared, and a news reporter appeared on the screen. Behind her was a dark sky filled with strange lights. Breaking news, the reporter said. Multiple witnesses across the city report unusual glowing objects in the clouds. Authorities are asking everyone to remain indoors until further notice. Daniel's stomach tightened. He slowly looked at Lyra. Her eyes were locked on the television. The soft blue glow around her body began to flicker again. This time it wasn't calm. It looked like fear. Her small hand started to shake. They're searching, she whispered. Daniel stood up. Who is searching? Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide with panic. They are close, she said. At that exact moment, all the lights in the apartment went out. The room fell into darkness. Only Lyra's faint blue glow remained, casting strange shadows on the walls. Then, from somewhere above the building, a low humming sound filled the air. It didn't sound human. It didn't sound like any machine Daniel had ever heard, and it was getting louder. The humming sound above the building grew deeper and louder. It was not like thunder. It was smooth, controlled, alive. Daniel stood still in the dark apartment. Only Lyra's soft blue glow gave light to the room. Shadows moved across the walls as her glow flickered. Stay calm, he whispered, even though his own heart was racing. Lyra slowly slid off the couch and stepped closer to him. She looked smaller now, more fragile. But her eyes were focused on the ceiling, as if she could see through it. They are scanning, she said quietly. Scanning for what? Daniel asked. For me. The humming paused for a moment. Then it changed tone, becoming sharper, like something searching carefully. Daniel moved toward the window. He carefully pulled the curtain aside just a little. High above the clouds, he saw a faint red light moving slowly across the sky. It was too steady to be lightning, too silent to be a helicopter. His mouth went. "Dry, who are they, Lyra?" he asked, keeping his voice low. She looked down at her hands. The blue glow around her skin became softer again, like she was trying to hide it. "They are hunters," she said. Daniel turned to face her fully. "Hunters? Why would anyone hunt you? You're just a child." Lyra's expression changed. There was sadness in her eyes, but also something else, something important. "I am not just a child," she said. The humming above the building slowly moved farther away. The sound faded into the distance, but Daniel knew it was not gone. He stepped away from the window and sat down on the floor so he could look at her at eye level. "Tell me the truth," he said gently. "I need to understand." Lyra nodded slowly. "My world is called Illyra," she began. "We are not warriors. We do not fight. We heal. We build. We protect life." Daniel listened carefully. "We learned how to use light energy," she continued. "Not for weapons, for power, for travel, for helping other worlds." Her small hand began to glow slightly brighter as she spoke. "But another species found us. They wanted our energy. They said we were weak." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. "So they attacked?" She nodded. "They destroyed our cities. They hunted our leaders. My family," her voice broke. Daniel didn't interrupt. "My mother was the High Guardian," Lyra said softly. "She protected the heart crystal of our planet." Daniel frowned. "Heart crystal?" Lyra reached slowly behind her neck. From under her wet clothing, she pulled out a small object hanging on a thin silver chain. It was a tiny glowing crystal. The light inside it moved like a living flame. Daniel stared at it in silence. "This crystal holds our planet's knowledge," she explained. "Our history, our science, our maps, everything." His eyes widened. "And they want it?" "Yes." The room became very quiet. "They destroyed our palace," Lyra continued. "My mother sent me away in a small ship before they could reach me. She told me to find a world with kind hearts." Daniel swallowed. "She chose Earth?" he asked. Lyra looked at him directly. "No," she said softly. "I chose." Daniel felt something heavy settle in his chest. "My ship crashed in the storm," she continued. "I hid, I waited, but they followed." The silence between them felt deep. Daniel stood up slowly and walked toward the kitchen. He needed a moment to think. This was too much. Alien hunters. Destroyed planets. A glowing crystal holding the knowledge of an entire world. He looked down at his hands. He was just a repairman. He fixed broken machines. How could he protect something this important? Behind him, the light suddenly flickered back on for a split second. Then off again. Lyra gasped. "They found the energy trace," she whispered. Daniel turned quickly. Outside the window, a thin red beam moved slowly across the buildings like a searching eye. It stopped. Right over their apartment. The humming sound returned, louder than before. The walls vibrated slightly. Daniel's fear turned into something else. Decision. He walked back to Lyra and knelt in front of her. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I don't know anything about space wars. I don't know anything about heart crystals. But I do know this." He looked directly into her glowing eyes. "You are not alone anymore." The red beam outside grew brighter. A deep metallic sound echoed from the roof above them. Something heavy had landed on the building. The sound on the roof was heavy and sharp, like metal claws touching concrete. The whole building trembled for a second, then everything went still. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the fear in the air, thick and cold. Lyra stepped closer to him. Her small hand grabbed the side of his shirt. Her glow was weak again, like a candle about to go out. "They're here," she whispered. Daniel forced himself to stay calm. Panic would not help either of them. He looked around the apartment. It was small, with only one door and one window. There was no real place to hide. No secret room, no escape tunnel, just a simple man's home. Another noise came from above. This time it sounded like something dragging across the roof, slow, careful, searching. Daniel walked to the light, switch and flipped it off. The room fell into darkness again, except for Lyra's faint blue glow. "Try to stay quiet," he said. She nodded. Outside the window, the red scanning beam moved slowly down the wall of the building. It passed across other windows, then crept closer. To theirs, Daniel pulled the curtain shut completely. The apartment felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. Then came the knock. But it wasn't a normal knock. It was heavy, metallic, like someone was hitting the door with a steel hammer. Boom! The sound echoed through the hallway. Daniel froze. Another hit came. Boom! The door shook in its frame. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra's fingers tightened on his shirt. "They don't knock," she whispered. "They break." Daniel's mind raced. He had to think fast. "Is there another way out?" he asked. She shook her head. "Only the back stairs. But they may already be below." The third hit came, louder than before. Boom! A crack appeared in the wood near the lock. Daniel looked around the room. His eyes landed on his toolbox near the couch. It wasn't a weapon, but it was all he had. He picked up a heavy wrench and held it in his hand. It felt small and useless compared to whatever was outside. Still, he held it tight. "Listen to me, Lyra," he said quietly. "When I say run, you go to the back stairs. Don't stop. Don't look back." Her eyes filled with fear. "What about you?" "I'll slow them down." She shook her head quickly. "No, they will kill you." Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe, but I can't let them take you." Another loud hit shook the door. The crack grew bigger. The metal lock bent slightly. Lyra's glow flickered again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something else. Energy. The air around her shimmered softly. "I can hide us for a short time," she said. "But—" "I am weak," Daniel nodded. "Do it when we reach the stairs." Suddenly, the humming sound returned, this time right outside the door. It was low and mechanical, like a machine breathing. A thin red line appeared under the door, scanning the floor. "They know we are here," Lyra whispered. Daniel moved toward the back of the apartment. He slowly opened the kitchen door that led to the back stairs. The hallway beyond it was dark and empty. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded. Behind them, the front door exploded inward with a loud crash. Wood splinters flew across the room. Two tall figures stepped inside. They were not human. Their bodies were covered in dark armor that looked almost alive. Their helmets were smooth and black, with a single red line glowing across where their eyes should be. Each one held a long, thin weapon that hummed with energy. They moved slowly, scanning the room. One of them spoke in a deep, mechanical voice. "Target signal confirmed. Life form located inside structure." Lyra gasped quietly. Daniel didn't wait. "Now!" he shouted. Lyra closed her eyes. Her body flashed with blue light. A soft wave of energy spread across the apartment. For a second, everything looked blurry, like a heat wave in the air. The hunters paused. Their red eye lines flickered. "Signal distortion detected," one of them said. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her into the back stairwell. They ran down the dark steps as quietly and quickly as they could. Behind them, the hunters' voices echoed. "Target attempting escape. Pursue immediately." Heavy metallic footsteps followed. The hunt had truly begun. The stairwell was dark and narrow. The only light came from a small emergency bulb at the bottom of the stairs. Daniel held Lyra's hand tightly as they rushed downward. Behind them, heavy metallic footsteps echoed through the building. Slow, steady, unstoppable, double quotes. They are faster than they look, Lyra whispered, her breathing weak. Don't think about that, Daniel said. Just keep moving. They reached the back door of the building. Daniel pushed it open carefully. Cold rain hit his face again. The storm had not stopped. In fact, it seemed stronger now, as if the sky itself was angry. The alley behind the building was empty, but the red scanning light was still moving across. Rooftops above. Daniel looked left and right. We go to the main street, he said. More space, more places to hide. Lyra nodded, but her steps were slower now. The energy she used upstairs had drained her. Her glow was very faint. They ran into the rain. Thunder crashed loudly, shaking the ground. Water splashed under their feet as they turned the corner toward the main road. Suddenly, a sharp red beam cut across the street in front of them. Daniel pulled Lyra back just in time. The beam hit a parked car. In 1 second, the metal melted like butter. Daniel stared in shock. That's what they carry? He said under his breath. Lyra's voice trembled. Disruptor weapons. They do not miss. A loud mechanical sound came from above. Daniel looked up. A small black drone floated in the air, its red eye glowing bright. It turned slowly toward them. Run! Daniel shouted. They dashed across the street as the drone fired again. The red beam hit the ground behind them, leaving a smoking hole in the asphalt. People in nearby buildings began turning on their lights. Some windows opened as confused voices called out. What's happening? Was that lightning? Daniel knew it was only a matter of time before the hunters stopped caring about being hidden. He spotted an old warehouse at the end of the block. The metal doors were half open. Inside there, he said. They rushed toward it. Rain poured down harder, almost blinding them. The drone followed above, its red eye locked on Lyra. Just as they reached the warehouse entrance, Lyra suddenly stopped. Daniel turned. What's wrong? She looked at the sky, fear in her eyes. They have arrived, she whispered. Through the thick clouds, a massive dark shape moved silently. It was too large to be a plane, too smooth to be human. Daniel felt very small. The drone fired again. This time, Daniel pushed Lyra forward and the beam grazed his arm. A sharp burning pain shot through him. He cried out but didn't stop. They stumbled. Inside the warehouse, Daniel quickly pulled the heavy metal door closed. The inside was dark and filled with old crates and broken machines. The drone's red beam flashed against the outside walls. Daniel leaned against a crate, breathing hard. His arm burned, but he ignored it. Can you hide us again? He asked. Lyra shook her head weakly. Not for long. I am too tired. Daniel looked around. The warehouse was full of scrap metal and broken equipment. Old engines, rusted pipes, large steel containers. An idea came to him. Metal block signals, right? He asked quickly. Lyra blinked. Sometimes. Daniel grabbed a large empty steel container and opened it. Get inside. Her eyes widened. It will trap me. It might also hide you. Outside, heavy footsteps landed near the warehouse. Entrance. The hunters had reached the ground. Daniel helped Lyra climb inside the container. He gently closed the lid but left a small gap for air. Stay quiet, he whispered. Then he quickly dragged other metal pieces around the container, stacking them to create more cover. The warehouse door exploded inward. 2 armored hunters stepped inside, their red eye lines scanning everything. Daniel stepped out from behind a crate, trying to look calm even though fear shook his body. One of the hunters pointed its weapon at him. Human detected, it said in its cold mechanical voice. Where is the target? Daniel forced himself to speak. I don't know what you're talking about. The red line on the hunter's helmet narrowed. Do not interfere." Daniel raised his hands slowly. Behind the hunters, the large dark shape in the sky lowered closer to the city, and inside the metal container, Lyra felt her strength fading. The hunters began scanning the warehouse. The metal would not hide her forever. The warehouse felt colder than the storm outside. Rain tapped against the metal roof, but inside, everything was silent except for the soft hum of the hunters' weapons. Daniel stood in the middle of the open floor with his hands raised. His arms still burned where the red beam had touched him, but he ignored the pain. 2 armored hunters slowly walked toward him. Their red eye lines scanned his body, then moved across the warehouse. "Human," one of them said in a flat mechanical voice. "You are hiding the target. This is your final warning." Daniel forced a tired smile. "You're looking for the wrong person." The second hunter lifted its weapon. The tip of it glowed faintly red. "Deception detected," it said. "Human life is not required." Daniel swallowed. His heart beat loudly in his ears. He didn't know how much longer he could stall them. Behind a stack of scrap metal, the steel container sat quietly. Inside, Lyra lay curled up, her small body weak. The blue glow around her skin flickered like a dying star. She could hear the hunters' voices through the thin metal walls. She knew the truth. Daniel could not protect her forever. With the last of her strength, she pushed the lid open just a little and slipped out. Her feet touched the cold warehouse floor. She stumbled but kept moving. "Stop," she whispered weakly. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw her step out from the shadows. "Lyra, no," he shouted. Both hunters turned toward her instantly. Their red eye lines locked onto her glowing body. "Target confirmed," one of them said. "Prepare for extraction." Daniel stepped in front of her, spreading his arms. "You'll have to go through me," he said. The hunter raised its weapon. Irrelevant obstacle. Lyra gently touched Daniel's arm. "It is over," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, I'm not letting them take you." Her glowing eyes looked into his. There was no fear in them now, only sadness and peace. "My body cannot survive on this world," she said softly. "Even if they do not take me, I am already fading." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "There has to be a way. We'll find someone. A doctor. A scientist. Anyone." She slowly shook her head. "There is no time." The hunters stepped closer, their weapons ready. Lyra reached up and pulled the small glowing crystal from around her neck. The light inside it pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She placed it in Daniel's hand. The moment his skin touched it, the crystal grew warmer. "This holds the memory of my people," she said. "Our knowledge, our home, our hope." Daniel stared at the crystal, his hand shaking. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you are kind," she whispered. "My mother said the heart crystal must go to a world with kind hearts." A tear rolled down Daniel's cheek. "I'm just a repairman," he said. "I fix broken machines. I'm not a hero." Lyra gave a small, tired smile. "Tonight, you fixed something more important." The hunters raised their weapons. "Transfer the crystal," one commanded, "or both life forms will be terminated." Lyra leaned closer to Daniel. Her glow was fading fast now. "Humans are different," she whispered. "You protect strangers. You show kindness even in darkness." Her voice grew softer. "Please, protect my people." Her small hand rested on his chest for a moment. Then the glow around her body dimmed. Daniel felt her weight grow heavier as she collapsed into his arms. "Lyra," he said quietly. "Lyra, stay with me." No answer came. The crystal in his hand suddenly pulsed with bright blue light. Energy spread across the warehouse like a wave. The hunters stepped back. "Unknown signal detected," one of them said. "Source, heart crystal." Above the city, the massive dark shape in the clouds suddenly stopped moving. The crystal in Daniel's hand grew brighter and brighter. Then a beam of blue light shot upward through the roof, straight into the stormy sky. Far above, hidden beyond the clouds, dozens of new lights appeared. Not red, blue, and they were moving toward Earth. The blue beam from the crystal shot into the sky like a pillar of light. It cut through the storm clouds and reached far beyond the atmosphere. Daniel knelt on the cold warehouse floor, holding Lyra in his arms. Her small body was still. The soft glow around her skin had faded completely. "Please, wake up," he whispered. But she did not move. Above the city, the dark alien ship suddenly stopped. Its red lights flickered, as if something had confused its systems. Inside the warehouse, the two hunters stepped back from Daniel. Their red eye lines flashed rapidly. "Multiple signals detected," one of them said. "Unknown fleet entering orbit." The other hunter turned toward the broken roof where the blue beam still shone. "Threat level increasing. Mission priority, retreat." Daniel looked up, confused. "Retreat?" A deep rumbling sound filled the air. It came from the sky, but it was different from the hunters' ships. This sound was smoother, calmer, almost peaceful. Outside, people stepped into the streets, pointing at the clouds. The storm began to break apart. The heavy rain slowed, and the clouds opened. High above, dozens of glowing blue ships appeared. They were elegant, shaped like smooth silver wings, and surrounded by soft light. They were nothing like the dark, sharp ships of the hunters. In the warehouse, the hunters looked up. "Royal fleet confirmed," one of them said. "We are outnumbered." Without another word, both hunters activated small devices on their arms. A red flash surrounded them, and in a second, they vanished. Daniel blinked. They were gone. Only silence remained. The blue beam from the crystal slowly faded. The light in Daniel's hand softened, becoming calm again. A gentle humming sound came from outside the warehouse. It was not loud or threatening. It sounded more like music. Daniel carefully laid Lyra's body on the ground and stood up. He walked toward the broken doorway. Outside, one of the blue ships had landed in the middle of the street. Its surface shone like liquid light. A small ramp extended from the bottom of the ship. Several tall, graceful alien figures stepped down. Their bodies glowed faintly, just like Lyra's had. But their eyes were filled with sadness. One of them, a tall figure, with silver markings on her face, stepped forward. She looked at Daniel, then at the crystal in his hand. "You are the human who answered her call," she said in a calm, clear voice. Daniel swallowed. "I tried to help her, but I wasn't fast enough." The alien woman walked closer. She looked at Lyra's still body, and her eyes softened. "She chose you," the woman said. "That means you were exactly what she needed." Daniel felt his throat tighten. "She said she chose Earth because humans are kind." The alien woman nodded slowly. "Princess Lyra was the last child of our royal line." The heart crystal responded to her final choice. Daniel looked down at the glowing crystal. "What happens now?" The woman placed a gentle hand over the crystal. The light inside it shimmered. "Now," she said, "her message lives on." More blue ships appeared in the sky. Some were damaged. Some carried refugees. The peaceful alien fleet had come to Earth for safety. "She believed humans would protect us," the woman continued. "And now we ask, will you?" Daniel looked around. Humans were slowly stepping into the streets, staring at the ships with fear and wonder. He thought about Lyra's small hand holding his, her weak voice, her final smile. He closed his fingers around the crystal. "Yes," he said firmly, "we will." Days later, the storm was only a memory. Across the world, humans watched as the peaceful alien refugees were welcomed. Scientists, doctors, and volunteers worked side by side with them. News channels called it the first true contact between worlds. But Daniel didn't care about the headlines. He stood on a quiet hill outside the city, holding the crystal. Above him, blue ships floated peacefully in the sky. One of them sent down a soft beam of light. Inside it appeared a small glowing image of Lyra, smiling gently. Daniel smiled back, tears in his eyes. "In the darkest storm," he whispered, "you trusted a stranger." The image of Lyra slowly faded into the stars. And from that night on, the galaxy remembered one simple truth. When the universe was cold and cruel, humanity chose kindness.